Hello there people and welcome to another Awesomenauts match. I'm playing Lonestar, Sheriff Lonestar. These are the upgrades I am taking. I will not take bouncy dynamite, but I will take damage of time on it, healing on it, and of course the third stick, or as people refer to it, Trinamite. I think that's the official name. Here we go, all the way down to the surface, collecting as much solar as I possibly can on my way, missing some of it unfortunately, but that tends to happen. I get some health, a bonus to my max health, and on top of that, I also buy the ball, not the dynamite. This is a weird choice, our original choice. This is more of a defensive measure than an offensive one. You can push people with it, you can push them towards your turret, so it may be used in an offensive fashion, but most of the time it's used when you're trying to run away, or perhaps if you're trying to get through the mines. Here's enemy's Yuri. Somewhat of a defensive, not somewhat of a support character, not necessarily a healer, although he can take talents which allow him to heal with his bubble. Quite a few competent people do that. There are a few bots on each of the teams. Nice pin there, by the way, pinning Yuri to the wall. The red team has a bot Froggy, that almost died here, and a bot Clunk. Our team has me playing as Lonestar, not a bot. There's also Skoldir, also not a bot, an actual person, and our bot is a second Froggy bot. However, the situation will momentarily equalize. There will be people joining, and this will be a more or less fair match, at least as far as the enemy team is concerned. Our situation may not necessarily be as nice. As you can see here, the bot almost took down our Scaldy, but not quite. He was able to get away in time, barely in time. And I am stuck here, defending our turret against 3 people. The ball helps, but it's not a silver bullet. It will not save us for all that long. Thankfully, eventually Skoldir got back there, and as he's a bruiser, he has the health to be able to handle it, at least for a brief while. Me trying to withstand an assault from 3 people, even though 2 of them were bots, wasn't necessarily going to happen, wasn't necessarily going to work for too long. Speaking of things that weren't necessarily going to work, Froggy, not once but twice, dashed into us instead of away from us. He is invulnerable during the dash, but it left him stranded, it left him open to enemy fire, our fire. Ultimately, he paid with his life. I understand that this may be exploiting an unequal situation. There was only one guy on the enemy team, an actual human player, Yuri. The other 2 guys were bots, the Clunk and the Froggy. We scored a single kill, managed to capitalize on that. That may not necessarily be the most honorable of things. However, at this particular point in time, the enemy team has 3 people, and our team remains at a cushy, comfy 2. The enemy team is comprised of Yuri, who was previously a support, Volta, a proper support healer, and Clunk, a proper Clunk instead of a bot. Fresh meat for the grinder, I say. The synergy I have with Skoldir is amazing. He can toss people away from himself, back behind him, all the way into our static defenses, while I can push them even further away and further into our territory and into turret fire with my ball. Of course, if we don't necessarily want to kill people at a given moment, our tower defenses are nowhere near, we can just push. I just bought an upgrade that allows me to deal damage with the ball pushing, with the ball's horns. It's gonna be quite helpful. The ball also serves quite a few additional purposes. I can use it to clear mines. Yes, of course, it's not as bulky as it possibly could be with all the health upgrades, but it'll do in a pinch. As you can see, it cleans up all the mines, and allows me to finally let our bots through and pursue the enemy team with impunity. I don't have to worry about the minefields. Also, the horn damage that I have added onto my ball means that they have to be a lot more cautious. Not only does it put them out of position, it may potentially kill them, but at the very least, it will keep dealing damage to them. The bots stacking up can sometimes potentially be considered a helpful thing. You get a stronger wave pushing, and you can push alongside it. However, now that the ball can and does deal damage, the bots are getting more and more damage merely by interacting with the ball. The explosion also does its thing. On top of that, I got a lowered cooldown on my ball, which means that it has become the ultimate poke tool. Of course, all of this is on top of its primary purpose, which is displacement of units. Crowd control. After all, what better thing can you add to a crowd control tool than straight up damage? Not only do you push them into places they probably would rather not be, but you also damage them in the process. And if they want to stay away from you, you can keep piling up the damage until you get bored of it. Over here, I could have hypothetically kept pushing the core with the bull, but I've decided to peel off Voltor. Granted, he should have been more careful since he's a healer, not necessarily much of a damage dealer. Similarly, Clunk here was fairly careless. I get the final tier of my horn damage upgrade. I haven't mentioned it quite yet, but this is a highly unusual build, if I may claim so myself. I, of course, am the sort of person that does like to go for the unusual thing. The more common builds focus on basic attack damage. That pistol can do quite a bit. Or on dynamite damage, because you can keep tossing it. I've just got it. And you can keep piling up a lot more damage than from the bull. It requires no additional investment whatsoever. You just buy the dynamite and a fairly low cooldown, you have a nice offensive damaging tool. But no, I decided to invest in the bull for its crowd control potential, and on top of that, for its poke potential, for all the sorts of things it can do for me. Anyway, with that, which you may possibly consider sort of a handicap, I think I'm performing fairly well. Of course, the enemy team's composition can be argued to be pretty abysmal. They have 2 supports and a tank. They're not going to get far, they just don't have the damage potential. Of course, Yuri can build damage on his laser, but that only works if he can suspend himself in a particular spot and deal that damage. He needs to be immobile to do it, and he charges it up the longer he fires. That's not gonna happen with my bull, as I'm going to push him all around the place. He could try to find some unassailable spot all the way up there next to the ceiling, but then he won't be able to do much to our infrastructure, in which case he's just being useless. He could drop mines, but I just run my bull on top of the mines and they explode, leaving our bots free to do their job. I got annoyed with pushing from that angle. Yes, eventually we would have probably overcome them, but why force ourselves into that position with no reasonable escapes whatsoever if we somehow manage to mess things up, instead of actually opening up bottom lane? Can provide a nice escape path for us. Why is the bot not doing anything? And, of course, in general, it's better to have 2 lanes be passable than not. It also gives us a bit of solor for destroying that particular turret. There are basically no downsides to it, aside from the fact that bots do not push them. The regular bots do not go to that lane. Only the buzz droids, these flying little thingies, go there, which you have to release manually from a box. Other than that, of course, you can try to attack them of your own volition. Justy is still immobile though. That's not a player being AFK, that's a bot. That's the bot we still have because it's a 2v3. As I was saying, pushing with the bull absolutely helps. I can slowly whittle the thing down with my bull alone, not having to worry about buzz droids and whether or not they stay alive for a given amount of time. Now, I get somewhat greedy here, because I'm with my human teammate, as Froggy is doing Logos knows what. I decide to keep this push going, destroy the mines with my bull, and possibly kill anyone who tries to get in my way. The usual. Yuri has wisely invested in mine damage, so I need to be careful. I can't just walk over the mines willy-nilly. I have to actually destroy them, and then proceed. Or at the very least I have to jump over them, and not get one dropped on top of my head. This means the choke points pose somewhat of a threat. I need to be moderately careful around them, but other than that, I can just open up bottom lane, and this will no longer be an issue, because they cannot be in 2 places at the same time. Yuri has decided to pursue me here, has taken the med pack away from me, but I can heal on the little robo kitties. I can also mess with him as much as I want. Because my bull is on a fairly low cooldown, it explodes, it deals damage with the horns, and ultimately is a horrible nuisance to everyone that has to suffer its wrath. I need to go back. I have over 200 solar, I might as well get something. I can't quite decide what I want though. Our tier 1 turret got some damage on it. Our Scoldiel died, but it did not matter in the end. Our droids won the game for us, 2v3. Thanks for watching, and you will see me elsewhere.